All right, and welcome back to season 2 of Modern Prescription.
I'm excited about it.
Super excited. This season's crazy.
I know you're excited about it.
Super. We have a crazy guest lineup. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up. This season's going to be huge.
Big season.
Huge. I think this is going to become the season where we become
ratings.
The best podcast in the world.
We're up there.
We're getting there, and this season's going to take us there.
This season.
I can't wait. Thank you guys for joining us on season 1 and for staying tuned. Episode 29 officially and episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah, so on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the failed vaccine.
Failed vaccine rollout. Not the failed vaccine.
Rollout.
Very efficient vaccine. Rollout.
We're going to have a special guest. We're going to talk about body contouring.
Yeah, plastic surgery during the pandemic. Yeah. Bringing on Dr. William Rahal, talk to us about Instagram and OnlyFans and TikTok. And how it's the plastic surgery world has influenced these 3 domains, especially OnlyFans. We're going to talk about the unfortunate, tragic passing of Dr. Simone, plastic surgeon here in Beverly Hills, who passed away just a week ago. Supposedly from a patient giving him COVID.
And I'm going to have a wellness tip of the week. How do we get fit and lose some weight in 2021?
How to kickstart that weight loss, but end of the episode, so stay tuned. Yeah. Great episode. Thanks for listening. All right, season 2, episode 1 of season 2.
We did it.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back, 2021. This is going to be a good year.
What is this, episode?
29.
29.
Episode 29.
Just like my age.
You're 29 years old?
Yeah.
You look 29.
Thank you.
You look 26, actually.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you look younger?
But smart enough to be a doctor.
Yeah, that's true. Doogie Howser.
Thank you.
They're remaking Doogie Howser. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
With a female Asian cast lead.
That's cool.
Which I think is fitting.
Yeah.
Asian and female.
How... It's like more realistic about who's a doctor.
Exactly, because there's not many white smart doctors.
What was your favorite doctor show? Maybe we should say this for another time, but what was your favorite doctor show?
Doogie Howser.
It was?
I love Doogie Howser.
Mine was ER. I loved ER.
I never watched ER.
Big fan.
George Clooney guy.
Great.
George Clooney. See, I never got into any of the medical shows because I just felt like we're living it.
I loved House also. Really liked House.
I see you because you used to post those House type things on your Instagram.
Yeah, love the mystery. To this day, still people refer me patients who have some like weird thing going on.
Yeah.
And even how busy I am, I will love like just disappearing into like looking up articles for like 45 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that's the part of medical school I hated.
Yeah. Love it. I like puzzles.
Puzzle guy. You're a chess guy now too.
Chess.
Since Queen's Gambit.
Oh my God.
Queen's Gambit got you
My
into
girlfriend's
chess?
going to kill me because I'm playing too much chess, but I'm playing a lot of chess.
That's amazing. And how was the holidays for you?
It was great to have a little time off.
Yeah.
I actually closed the office I had 7 days to myself, which was
amazing.
Great. I got to sleep in a little bit, exercise.
Yep.
Be outside, take longer walks with the pup. It was great. How about
you?
yourself?
You don't ever get to turn off though, because even during those 7 days, you still have patient phone calls.
I was working constantly. I just didn't have office visits and patients in the office.
Yeah, you didn't have to put on your nice clothes.
Right. So we were still coordinating stuff for the COVID testing and making sure everything for the next year was going okay. And just a little bit of a break. How about yourself?
Same. Busy season for us. We were operating a lot.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't get much of a break, but now I'm taking a little bit of a break. So I have a little bit of downtime this next couple of weeks that I'm really going to enjoy.
Nice.
Try to at least. But you're right. We're always working.
And are you vaccinated now?
I'm vaccinated. Second vaccine in. You as well?
Good. Yeah, second vaccine in.
Yeah. So let's talk about this vaccine. What's going on, man, with the rollout? Why is it so slow?
So I think what's really scary to think about is, when the pandemic came, obviously, it was out of nowhere. No one expected it. We weren't prepared for it. Should we have been better prepared for this possibility? Sure. Could they have done things better? Sure. But the one thing we knew for sure is we did have about 9 months or a year
to plan for the vaccine rollout.
The government had no other plan to get us out of this. So there was no, okay, if we do X, Y, and Z, we'll end the pandemic, mask wearing and this, and we close this. Their entire plan was based around, once we get the vaccine, we can finally have an exit strategy for the pandemic.
Yeah.
And yet, at least in California, I've honestly never seen something so disorganized and terrible and thoughtless. So what they did was the federal government decided they didn't want to even have to think about this. So they passed it on to the individual states to
So
decide.
federal government were just involved in buying and distributing to the states. That's it?
So the federal government paid Pfizer and Moderna money for the vaccines and then gave a certain supply per capita to each state.
And that's all. Then they were done.
Each individual state, they gave some vague CDC guidelines on what they thought may be a good rollout strategy. It was not a mandated rollout strategy.
Got it.
And each individual state. And so I can mostly speak for what can happen in California.
Yeah.
So in California, they decided that the best way to distribute the vaccine was to do this at government vaccination centers. And so they have a website called www.calvax.org where people could theoretically sign up for a vaccine. On the website itself, it doesn't say who's eligible. There's no dates where it says if you're in this category, So if you go to a different website, you can see that there's Group 1A, which is basically healthcare workers and people who live or work in nursing homes.
Right.
That was who's supposed to get it first. Then the second phase, 1B, is going to be elderly people over 75 with some other various essential workers who may or may not qualify. The problem with this is, first of all, on the website where you sign up, it doesn't actually say what date the certain different eligibility criteria is, nor does it gate for it. So anyone can actually sign up and get an appointment. And then what gates you is when you actually show up, the minimum wage person working for the government there is checking whatever papers you bring that says you're in fact who you say you are and eligible for the vaccine.
Right.
So the media, which I think it was awful, we talked about this on the last episode of the first season, called and was like, are rich people going to get the vaccine?
Yeah.
No, actually, it's going to be completely disorganized. And so I guess so I don't just talk forever, the last point being the vaccine, who's it needed for? Where half the deaths is 80-year-olds and older. Who doesn't know how to use the internet very well?
Yes,
80
that's
and
the biggest
older.
problem. Yeah,
Who
I saw your
doesn't
post.
drive?
Yeah. Right.
Who doesn't drive? 80 and older.
Yep.
Who shouldn't be standing in a line with hundreds of people to get a vaccine?
80 and older.
80 and older.
Yep.
And so, in my opinion, it should have been the medical community, doctors and hospitals distributing the vaccine that know how to do it. There's some argument that the Moderna vaccine has to be frozen and blah, blah, blah. But they could have partnered, in California, again, it's Ralph's and Kroger's who have the freezer capacity for the vaccine. In my opinion, they could have looked, they know every primary care doctor, they know based on Medicare how many 80 and olders you have. And so they could have said, okay, each doctor, let's say to make the numbers easy, you have 200 people 80 and older. So you go to your Kroger's and you pick up 20 vaccines per day for 10 days.
Exactly.
And you have 200 people and anyone who's in that group will cancel, not as if they have other plans during COVID, but if you assign them a date, they could probably figure out how to make it for that very important date.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
As opposed to free-for-all on the internet where
they don't even know how to use it properly. A lot of 67-year-olds don't even know how to use it. I think what would have been a great idea to add to that would have been the doctors schedule the appointments ahead of time, and then once the appointments are scheduled, then they get the allotted shipments based on their scheduled appointments. So not even based on their patient database, just based on fill up the calendar. So we have 300 people scheduled to get the vaccine.
And we can show you the schedule.
Right. And this is one of those things that people aren't going to cheat on trying to do it more than once. It's not like a lotto ticket. Like nobody's going to try to get the vaccine 6 times.
Right.
Like individual.
But now because the government website and there's no, each doctor, I know who is sick in my practice and
who deserves the vaccine immediately.
Who needs it. Who, just so that I don't have to worry about them, just so that I know who needs it. And I'm going to get those people the vaccine.
Right. You could have prioritized much better than the state government will be able to.
Right, because people are writing letters, I work in real estate, I need a vaccine.
I know.
And so it's just completely chaotic.
I'm sure you're getting asked left and right.
They're going to run out of vaccines, for sure.
Yeah.
And not with 75 and older. They're going to run out of vaccines because they put 75 and older in the same group with essential workers with comorbidities or essential workers who get a letter. And there's so many millions and millions and millions of those people that it's just going to be.
Yeah, I just don't like you said, I don't like how the onus is on the individual citizens to figure out how to get it.
Right.
That is just not acceptable because like you said, the people who are the most at risk have the least capacity to figure it out.
Yes.
Like if you give me and you a puzzle to figure out online, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
Because first of all, we're young, we're computer savvy, and we have the will and the
Worst
ability.
case, I'll hire someone else to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yes.
But what's a poor 75-year-old woman who lives alone, maybe a widow?
Yeah.
How is she supposed to figure this out?
It's impossible.
Yeah, she may not even have a computer. She may not drive, like you said.
And so the craziest part of this all is the last week, I honestly am thinking about hiring another receptionist just to handle the amount of phone calls about questions about how do I sign up for the vaccine.
Oh, wow.
Because the government website doesn't have a phone number.
So you've been guiding your own patients.
Literally hundreds of calls a day.
Wow.
Hey, I'm on the website. I can't sign up. Hey, how do I get a place? How do I get an appointment? It's unbelievable.
But I think that maybe that's a good message to all physicians who have practices like yours, primary care physicians, that you should A, expect this, and B, maybe be prepared, like you're saying, and help, right? Try your best to help.
We're trying our best.
Yeah.
I sent a mass email out with the links to the various things. But again, I don't,
You should post that on your website and
I can,
put a blog up and people can send it to their loved ones.
Yeah, I think the problem is, again, the people who really need it may not. If you have mild dementia, cognitive issues, and you live at home with a caregiver, but the email I have on file is for the, patient, not the caregiver. Let's say.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
they
gonna
may never
happen.
get checked.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
whatever,
great
so.
point. Yeah, it's tough times, and hopefully with the new administration, it looks like he has a very strong plan of how he wants to do the vaccine rollout.
And there may be another the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is getting closer, and my understanding is they have produced more that are in a stockpile.
Okay, great.
Than actually Pfizer ever made.
Wow,
So it could be like a wave of more vaccines.
Right. And then the other question is going to be how long the immunity from the vaccine lasts. That obviously we don't know yet. No one's been vaccinated long enough.
I mean, what's cool is it will create herd immunity for some period of time, and that in and of itself slows down this
transition,
quote unquote pandemic.
Yes.
So it may become endemic in the sense that people still get COVID from years to come, but it will never be where like no one can go in a restaurant because everyone in the restaurant will catch it because some of the people will still have immunity. Right. So it'll be more similar to a worse flu that people can get, but not, killing millions or hundreds of thousands of people anymore.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed too is that flu and cold the rates have never been so low.
Yeah.
It's because everyone's wearing a mask.
So another proof, if anyone's wondering whether masks work, no one's getting the colds or the flus this year.
All my friends that are doctors like you, primary care doctors, they're saying they literally don't have any appointments for flus and colds. Normally they're completely booked.
Yes.
From November to February with flu and cold, right?
Yes, and there's zero.
Right. That's so amazing. Yeah. So masks work.
Masks work.
100%.
They really work.
Yeah.
And no one going outside and the rest of it. But yeah, I do think, even if the vaccines only last a year, a lot of people will be vaccinated. A lot of people will have had it. I read something where they estimate a third now of LA has actually had it. So we're like halfway to herd immunity already.
Right.
So I think it may be something where people will end up needing to get it could be you need an annual COVID vaccine.
Right.
Which may be the case. It may be you need it every other year.
Right.
It's yet to be seen, but I think the pandemic, at least in the United States, if people are, with a big if, are willing to take the vaccine.
Well, to the people wondering if they should take the vaccine, so there's two different groups of people, right? One group is the people who are anti-vaxxers in general, don't put chemicals in your body, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole different world. And also thank God that's a minority.
Yeah.
But there is a large number of people who are worried about the side effects of the vaccine. What I will tell all those people is getting COVID is far worse than any side effects you'll get from the vaccine. So even if you get chills, fevers, malaise, night sweats for a couple of days, it's far better than what the symptoms would be if you got COVID. So don't worry about the symptoms.
Yeah.
And even for pregnant people, they're now suggesting pregnant people take the vaccine. My family members who are pregnant, things like that, we have even started to push them to take the vaccine.
Yeah.
And OBGYN doctors are promoting it too, to take the vaccine because like they say, the risk of getting COVID while you're pregnant way far worse than getting the vaccine while you're pregnant and any of the potential side effects.
I think the other thing is it's your civic duty to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
When your time has come. So it's not just that.
It's like the draft. Yeah.
Well, it is because it's the way the pandemic ends.
Yeah.
And so it's not just that, if you're 31 years old, I know if you get COVID, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But you, again, will potentially pass it off to other people. if you get vaccinated, you are right. You will get some muscle aches. You'll feel a little, not great for a day. That means it's working. That means your immune system's turning on. That's normal.
And that being said, I didn't even have any symptoms. Did you have any?
I did. I had some, muscle aches. My arm hurt. I had a little bit of chills. But again, I was happy to have those because that means that it's working.
It's working. I had nothing. I had no symptoms at all.
Turning on.
Neither vaccine did have a single symptom except for a little arm soreness. That's it.
Okay.
But no chills, no
fevers,
nothing.
Maybe because I had it also in real life that my immune system really is angry about it. So, but to me, again, I was glad to have those chills because it meant it's working. Hopefully I'm immune for a very long time from this.
Right.
But again, all of us getting the vaccine is creating the herd immunity. And so I think the young people, that's why you should get it, is to protect your parents and your grandparents.
Yeah.
And the community at large.
Yeah, the community at large, the world.
I did read something that is a little scary about the vaccine in Sweden, where people in nursing homes that were like in their 90s, a few people actually died after getting the vaccine.
Maybe because their immune system's response to it was strong.
And so again, the same reason why COVID kills people in nursing homes, a lot of these people are very close to the end. And with excellent care, 24-hour care, feeding them and everything else, you can extend people's lives for a period of time. But so I want that not to scare anybody who's not a 90-year-old in a nursing home into thinking that the vaccine can kill you, because I'm sure the media will clickbait stories about this and it's going to become something we've all heard. But, 30-year-olds are going to be safe having the vaccine.
Yeah, I think we live in a generation of wokeness in a good and bad way. And the problem is that everyone thinks that they're more educated than everyone else. And this lack of education, making them feel empowered, is really dangerous. And a lot of the community leaders who maybe aren't so educated are telling their community, don't get the vaccine. And that's very dangerous. And I think we need to believe in science. Yeah, we need to believe in science.
I'd like to be in a restaurant.
Yeah, me too.
I really would.
Me too.
I really would.
Well, today we have an interesting topic. We have Dr. William Rahal, who's a body specialist, a plastic surgeon who does body and breast contouring. And we have a lot of cool plastic surgery news stories. A lot of questions. We're going to play Fact or Fiction with him. On season 2, a lot of guests, a lot of games, and we're gonna delve right into it. So we're going to bring Dr. William Rahal on, and we're going to talk about his Beverly Hills practice and what he does for his patients, and talk a lot about the myths behind Brazilian butt lifts.
Yeah, ready for it.
Right. And why is it called Brazilian butt lift?
I still don't know. I think they want to look like a butt of a Brazilian.
I have a friend who's a Brazilian plastic surgeon in Brazil, and he told me that they don't call it Brazilian butt lifts. They just call it body contouring. And they think it's hilarious how we call it BBLs, Brazilian butt lift.
It sounds fancier.
It sounds better, It sounds sexier. Brazilian butt lift. Like, who wants a regular butt lift?
Exactly.
I want the Brazilian.
I do. Let's bring him on.
All right, welcome to the show, Dr. Will Rahal. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
What a pleasure.
Thank you.
Huge.
Thank you,
Dr. Our first guest of 2021.
Amazing. Privilege.
Season 2.
And an amazing Beverly Hills plastic surgeon specializing in body contouring and breast work. And you're a specialist in these things. So you are all about OnlyFans. Just dive right into it.
OnlyFans has gotten pretty big the last couple of years, and I'm definitely seeing more of those patients coming in for sure.
Do you see some of your patients that have now become really big on OnlyFans? And you're kind of like, where's my credit?
It's interesting. I kind of you see both of it. You see the girls who are just starting out. So you see the girls who aren't on OnlyFans. They come to me. And then suddenly, their careers are blowing up. And I kind of joke around with them when I see them. We always, we have a good relationship. We have fun with it. I tease them. I'm like, I get 10% of everything right after you make it big. And then it's interesting. I've had a couple of patients. So I didn't even know this was a thing, right? I've had a couple of patients who actually kind of manage other girls. And they're killing it. So they kind of oversee a group of girls. They oversee their accounts, and that's a whole bit. I didn't even know this existed. But it definitely
the new economies of COVID.
It's become a platform. I think with IG becoming increasingly more
strict.
They're very strict, difficult. They're unpredictable in what they censor.
Well, it's interesting because you're in the same concept as a lot of these girls, because a lot of these girls get censored for their images they post on Instagram. Does that ever happen with you in the work you post?
Yeah, it happens a lot. It's frustrating because they're constantly changing their policies, and I've been flagged. I mean, I've been flagged so many times. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my account. I've even set up a spoof account, like a second account.
Just in case.
Just in case. And I divert a lot of my content now to another account because I'm so careful. I even take it,
And it's interesting because you're not even attempting to be sexual and get followers because it's sexual. You're actually just showing pre and post-op work.
Yeah.
So
it's there's no rhyme or reason. I've spoken to Facebook and Instagram. Like I know people there that I've had this conversation with, and they tell me no one knows the algorithm. It's getting worse and worse. We can't predict it. Just be super cautious.
It must be people flagging it or something.
Well, there's bots. Because I asked them, there's bots. They said there's no way.
So you think your competitors are hiring some bots to take down your...
You know what Instagram told? Dude, you can't make this stuff up. They actually told me that there are people out there who can engage a company to create a bot to flag your stuff.
Why would so this is
a competitor?
Oh my god!
So like this is a real thing. Like for example, I can say, you know what, I don't like Jeff. I love Jeff, but let's just say one day I decide I don't like Jeff.
Yeah,
I can call one of these places. Say, look, I don't like this guy. I want you to get a bot because people don't do this. They're bots. I want you to get a bot, flag everything on this guy. Now, Instagram, once you have one flag on something, it kind of throws you into this other pool.
Got it.
And maybe it won't take it down, but then if another person does it, another person does it, that's what the bots do. Now suddenly it comes down. So this is a thing.
Wow.
Dude, it's crazy.
Wow. And the reason you would flag Jeff is because you can't have two handsome white guys in one room.
Yeah.
The world will collapse.
Yeah.
Well, I have less, body images on my Instagram.
Yeah, you posted your feet one time.
I don't think I've ever posted a shirt off photo on Instagram.
You should.
Not yet.
You have a good shirtless.
Not yet. Not yet.
You don't have too
Jeff's
many
ripped.
followers.
Yeah.
It's not summer yet.
Summertime, we're going to see some
Which brings me a question. Okay, so here's a question for you. So obviously, you're very famous for your Brazilian butt lift, body work. Do you ever get male patients?
Yeah, I have male patients. They're probably about 5%.
Okay.
It's an increasing trend. The interesting thing with male patients is...
What kind of things are they looking for?
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Abs? Abs?
Well, they want butts too, Jeff.
They want butts.
Everyone wants to look better in jeans, Jeff.
Wow.
So guys are getting butt injections also?
They can, just to fill out their buttock. Yeah.
Wow.
So what is a Brazilian butt lift? Obviously, we have all heard of it. We understand that people do this procedure and then all of a sudden, but what are you actually doing?
Yeah, we're changing the shape of the body, right? We're changing your biology. You were born with a certain shape, a square, and we're changing it to an hourglass. That's essentially what we're doing. How do we do it?
So what do you do?
We do liposuction. We remove fat strategically from certain areas like the waist and the lower back. And then we use the fat to change the shape of the hips, the butt, the thighs.
Why is there so much controversy around like safety? Like you hear about like it's not safe unless you go to certain people. Why is safety such a big deal?
Yeah, safety is always going to be a big deal to doctors, right? We took the Hippocratic Oath, so first do no harm. First thing we're taught in medical school.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this procedure historically was done incorrectly. And it was done incorrectly, and we didn't know we were doing it wrong. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So for years, we didn't know that we were doing it wrong. And it wasn't until about 2018 that there were studies performed, cadaveric studies, that actually showed us, hey, guys, we're wrong in this. And since 2018, with all the task force that come out, we have new data that basically tells us intramuscular injection of fat, meaning if you take fat, you put it in the muscle, there's a risk of a fatality. Before 2018, there was a lot of argument whether, if you put it there was thought that, hey, you can put it in the muscle. It just has to be in a certain spot, or you should avoid this danger zone, right? There was all this speculation of putting it in the muscle, but doing it a certain way. And then finally, the real data came out that said, this is a black and white thing. This is binary.
Put it in the muscle.
Don't do it.
It was a risk of what? Fat embolism?
Fat embolism, right.
So a piece of fat going into a blood vessel.
Exactly.
And you have bigger blood vessels in the muscle.
It's interesting, the pathophysiology actually. There's no posterior sheath on the muscle. So the back of the muscle is wide open and fat just goes there. The pressure gradient goes up so much that it actually has a tearing effect on the vessels. Then the fat can siphon into the vessel. It embolizes to the heart and lungs. It's called a macro
Wow.
embolism, and that's 100% mortality. That's DOA, dead on arrival.
Wow.
So what do you
that's-
do now? So that was the old technique, and and also I've heard horror stories of like people injecting like cement and all this other crap.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, look, if you're going to some, basement in Brooklyn, that's what you might find.
I thought there's vegans in Brooklyn.
There are, but if you're going to like La
The next street
Clinica,
over.
if you're knocking on a door, La Clinica, heading down a stairway, you're probably in the wrong.
So what do
place.
you do now? So now instead of into the muscle, what are we doing now?
So we're doing subcutaneous underneath
okay.
right underneath the skin or above the muscle. So it's
Are there
safe subcutaneous.
And how long does it last indefinitely with that new shape, or is it something where because it's not stabilized in a muscle or something that it can move or change in some way?
No, it doesn't shift or migrate. It doesn't move. So whatever shape you have at 3 months, that's yours. Now, time kind of changes the body. So as you age, there's still changes will occur. But if you have a new shape, that's yours forever.
And what happens if you gain weight? Will those fat cells also get bigger too?
Yeah, they behave biologically the same way, right? So if you
Wow.
take a bunch of fat cells from your tummy and you transplant it to your butt and you just overeat, if you just, let go,
Uh-huh.
your
Your
butt's
butt will
gonna-
get big.
Your butt's going to get bigger,
So
yeah.
you see that sometimes in these celebrities who've had this done, obviously, and then they gain a little weight and it looks ridiculously big.
Yeah, well, to your field, to your specialty, you see that in the face.
Yes, yes.
Right? If you overgraft, if you put too much fat in someone's face and 10 years go by, you've seen this. They
Yeah, it
gain
gets
weight.
puffy.
They look weird. They look puffy. Yeah,
you
little
see a
chipmunk
lot of
look.
that. Right. Well, that brings us back full circle to the celebrity comments because The Weeknd, the famous artist, he's been basically making fun of our entire industry for the past year with his album. So if you saw his album cover, he had the nose job thing on, and then he had the bloody nose thing this whole year. And then he did, just recently, he revealed what his face looked like after he took off the bandages. This is all part of his album, just spoofing and making fun of celebrities in
didn't know
LA and making fun of what we're doing.
Yeah.
He's been spoofing us for a year, and it's
Got it.
hilarious. So he just revealed his fresh face, okay? And it looks ridiculous. And it's obviously not real. It's just makeup and CGI and stuff. But he's just showing this ridiculous contoured cheek face look, and it just looks so ridiculous. And he's just making fun of the industry because
How do you think his very plastic surgery girlfriend feels about this?
Oh, I don't know if they're together right now, but I think that's what he's spoofing the whole industry that all the girls look the same. And so this circles back to what's happening right now with your industry.
Right.
Do you feel like everyone wants the same shape and everyone's going to look the same eventually body-wise?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think if you study history, you see fads come and go, right? The big breast thing of the 90s is gone. Now we're kind of in the golden area of butts, right?
Right. Smaller breasts, bigger butts.
Smaller breasts, bigger butts. And I think that aesthetics, though, are consistent. When you look at aesthetics across the board, whether it's cultural, ethnically, over time, there are certain aesthetics that we can all agree on look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually a waist to hip ratio of about 0.6 to 0.7, which is the golden ratio, right? I think once you get outside kind of a standard aesthetic, it's a little bit, eccentric, where it's probably a fad, it's going to go away. But I think the average patient who comes has some work, it's tasteful, it's within these aesthetic boundaries, it's timeless.
With your stuff versus like, I do noses, right? So with noses, the whole goal is for a nose not to look like a nose job. It's to make it look like it was its original form.
Right.
So we're trying to cater towards what historically it should have been.
Right.
But we're not trying to recreate something. So with what you guys do with your body stuff, do you feel like you are catering to what the ratio should have been? Or are you guys enhancing the ratio to, you know what I mean? Like, because do girls ever naturally have this body
Yeah.
shape that you guys create?
Oh yeah, I think girls do naturally have it. I mean, there's some of us are just endowed, with better things than others.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not fair to those girls out there who are born like squares or V shapes, right? Whatever shape you're born with, we have the ability to change it.
So the most beautiful natural girls that have this naturally, that's kind of what you're contouring these other girls to look towards, a more natural shape.
Yeah, I mean, they say beauty's skin deep, right? I always say beauty's bone deep. It's your skeletal anatomy that creates beauty. So it has to do with the ratio of the ribs to the pelvis and then the shape of the pelvis. So some people are born with these bones. It's not a lot they can do. I mean, they could spend a lifetime in the gym. They're not going to get the same thing they get out of 3 hours in the OR.
Right.
And that's just reality. Same thing with the rhinoplasty or anything else. And it should be tasteful. You're right.
Yeah.
Good plastic surgery is plastic surgery that no one can tell you had done. That's good plastic surgery.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I say that all the time.
Yes.
No one should ever know you had your work done unless you're posting about it.
Unless you want it.
Yeah.
Unless you want them to know. And that's usually where round twos come in for BBL. So I tell girls, round one, you look great. Round two, you're going to look operated.
So what's round 2? Explain that.
Round 2 is they do their thing. They do the procedure. They're happy. They come back and they want more. I call it buck greed. They get buck greed.
Buck greed.
They get buck greed. It's a new term.
Buck greed. So I assume the more buck greed, the more money they make on OnlyFans, probably.
There's probably some correlation.
Got it. That's where greed
We can probably look at that a little deeper. But.
And then, so post-operatively, what's that like? Are they in pain? How long does that last for?
Post-op, the first week is tough. It's a little I call it I syndrome. Second week, life is better. At a month, the 1 month follow-up, I tell them 1 month follow-ups, you put on your tightest dress that you can find and send me a pic. That's the 1 month follow-up.
Wow.
Everything's good. And then 3 months, they're totally healed. So
wow.
And then what I find very interesting is that counterintuitively, I think for both of you, knowing both of you well as friends, that you guys are kind of busier than ever during the pandemic. So
right.
I think, not only, you would think that, and this brings up a point is that, there was a big story this week that a very famous plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills actually passed from COVID this week.
Yeah, super sad.
And basically, and I know you know him personally, so I just wanted to kind of touch on that quickly and talk about, this media backlash, which I think is incredibly unfair about kind of like picking on him for continuing to practice right now. And so I just thought this would be an interesting thing for us to touch on.
Yeah, I knew Dr. Simone very well. And first off, I just, our thoughts and prayers are with his family. He was a friend. He was a colleague. I was at his place in Rodeo many times. And it is very sad when anyone passes, right? There's been 400,000 Americans, right, that have passed away.
Yep.
So like you said, it kind of raises a bigger question is, should we be doing what we're doing? And to your point, I think, when you think of America and you think of a free society, it's contingent on a certain premise that we have the capacity as people to interpret what's going on and either, determine for ourselves what risk we're willing to take and what the risk of avoidance is. Mm-hmm. And that's what a free society is. So I think on a larger level, right, we have to ask ourselves, do we need someone else, the government, the state of California, telling us what we can and can't do? I think each person should make that decision. Dr. Simone is a good guy. He decided to keep his practice going. Unfortunately, there was a bad outcome.
Right.
But the bigger question is, do we need someone telling us what to do?
Go ahead.
With Dr. Simone, he was obviously very well known for his rhinoplasty work and his facial stuff. He was a facial plastic surgeon. And the story that was released on TMZ was that he was coughed on during a lip injection. And so there's a lot of backlash about why people are getting their lips done during a pandemic. And, they're kind of spinning it negatively. Yeah. But the argument that I have, and I'm sure you do too as doctors, is that we are in a controlled environment, hygienically safe, pre-pandemic, and even more so now, post-pandemic, and versus, a Miami nightclub where there's thousands of people raging and popping bottles and having the great time with no mask. Yeah. Which one's more dangerous, And I think that also, who's to say, God bless and rest in peace, Dr. Simone, but who's to say he got it from work? It could have been from the dinner he had the night before. It could have been anywhere.
And I think, to your point, there are, physicians that have gotten it. For the most part, we're better at mask wearing and better at hand cleaning and the rest of it than most. So it's as things go, it's probably one of the safer things to do. I know you guys are testing.
Yeah,
you're certainly temperature checking every person who walks in.
Yep.
You're COVID testing anyone before any major procedure.
Yes.
And so I agree that it's kind of unfair for the media to really bring this, obviously it's very sad, but to bring this up and kind of punish one specific industry for one death out of 400,000, 400,000 in this country when we have no data as to what is really driving the pandemic.
Right. Because and also to mention, Dr. Simone wasn't doing anything out of normal. All of us have kept our practices open.
Right.
I don't know any plastic surgeon who shut down during the pandemic.
Right.
We all shut down as required for the first few months.
One of the sad parts is I think a lot of healthcare providers finally are getting vaccinated in California right now. And
are you guys all vaccinated?
Yeah.
I'm now. I'm double vaccinated.
Yeah, me too. Dose, I had my second dose also.
I think hopefully I'm immune now officially.
Yeah. Well, we don't know how long it lasts, but immune at least
For a while.
temporarily. Yeah.
For a while. I mean.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a crazy topic, and rest in peace, Dr. Simone. His patients will miss him, his family will obviously miss him, and the community will because he was a great surgeon, had a great reputation. So, super, super sad. But now we're gonna change topics a little bit. I want to play a little game with you, Dr. Rahal. We're gonna play fact or fiction. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you some popular headlines, and you're gonna tell us whether you think these are true or false. Okay. All right. So one of them is, does the COVID vaccine cause facial swelling if you've had facial fillers before?
Probably fiction, but we don't know.
Yeah.
What's funny is I've noticed that the same people who get facial fillers are the people who are very anti-vax in general. So maybe they're making this story up to, they're like, oh my God, I would never put something foreign like a vaccine in my body.
Yes, but hyaluronic acid fillers made in the lab, sure, of course. Right. Yeah, the studies have shown that there was a few reports that there are some facial swelling, and they're thinking it's probably an immune response that the vaccine's creating that will maybe attack some of the fillers in the face, which cause some swelling. But everyone that had that so far, they've been able to reportedly treat it very easily with steroids, antihistamines, so nothing worrisome. So technically it's true, but we don't know what the actual relation is. So, fact or fiction, I think either one can go. All right, here's another one. COVID vaccines are being injected in the penis. Fact or fiction?
I don't know. Dr. Toll?
I don't know why they would be.
It's a real story.
I got mine in the upper arm both times.
I got mine in the upper arm too, in the deltoid in the shoulder.
That's usually where I go.
That's usually the normal.
I'm not sure. Maybe if someone's requesting that, but
I only give people vaccines in the deltoid or the gluteus.
Good to know.
Those are the two options.
Well, it is fiction, but there's a huge article about it because someone morphed a screenshot of using the CNN logo, and they made this entire article that doctors are injecting it in the penis, and it did huge rounds on social media. Oh, really? But absolutely
because
fiction.
of the same swelling effect as fillers. Is that what people want?
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a second, hidden motive for things.
I guess. All right, let's ask you this one. Captive gorillas in San Diego Zoo have now been tested positive for coronavirus.
Fiction.
It's actually fact. It's fact.
It's government dollars going to good work.
Yeah,
right?
it's fact.
For tax dollars.
I saw some headline that said these gorillas were the first primates to be, or not the first primates, the first apes to be tested positive for coronavirus.
Yeah.
And then I was reminding them that Trump did in fact test positive for coronavirus.
Ding, ding. Jeff's
low blow.
Low blow zinger. But indeed fact. And they are so far separating the animals and keeping them away from the other animals. Very interesting. Yeah. Good use of tax dollars, I agree.
Yeah, it's really good use.
Okay, so now let's talk about one that I think is really interesting because it has to do with your field. There's a famous former Playboy playmate who married Hugh Hefner. Her name's Crystal Hefner. She recently just posted about her experience and said she almost died during her Brazilian butt lift. Yeah. So she had a liposuction procedure and she said she almost died. She said, I lost half the blood in my body. She said she had a fat transfer on October 16th, almost didn't make it through, lost half the blood in my body, ended up being in the hospital needing blood transfusions. And she has been posting about women being cognizant of the dangers and risks. So this is obviously fact, but tell me your thoughts about her comments, and is this partly fiction?
Sure. I think if I don't know the details of that case, right? So it's impossible to give specifics when you just hear something. But to say, oh, is it possible to bleed from any surgery? Of course it is. And is it possible to need a blood transfusion? Yeah. So that is an inherent risk when you have surgery. There are risks, and you go into it knowing those risks. Now the bigger question is, was there something done that was negligent? Was there something done outside the standard of care? Meaning that, I can tell you I've done 1,000 BBLs. I've never had a blood transfusion before. Right. And you shouldn't require a blood transfusion, but it's possible. So was there something done that was wrong? Did the patient have some weird underlying blood disorder? We know that this is rare. They could have Van Willebrand's or some weird thing. Yeah. And suddenly they start bleeding uncontrollably. So I think, yes, it's true you can bleed. it shouldn't happen. It's rare, and you just have to know a little bit more details, I think, before you judge the case. You know?
So like, could she have had underlying anemia pre-op that they didn't know about? Could she have a coagulation problem?
True too, right? You know,
could she have taken aspirin or something else without?
So many things.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I cancel my cases if their hemoglobin is below. Jeff knows this because he sees a lot of my patients. If they're below 12 or 13, if they're even borderline, I don't do it.
Yeah,
It's
so
not worth it. So
the analogy I give to a lot of
makes
Dr.
sense.
Hall's patients in pre-op who are anemic is, you know, we're not going to drive across the country before we fill the gas tank. And so if they're anemic, we're going to give them
that's
the
a good one.
iron.
I like that one.
We know any surgery, you're going to lose some blood.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, you guys could tell more about this. You may run into a problem. You may hit a vessel. You may bleed more in certain cases than others. But we know in every single case, there's some blood loss. So we want to fill up the tank before the case starts.
I love that. So what would you say to a patient who comes in and says, oh my God, I saw Crystal Hefner's post. I heard I can die.
Yeah, I would say that, again, to be fair to her, you know, I don't know the details of this case, and I wouldn't dismiss what she's saying, but I would say in my hands, with our procedures and protocols, our preoperative testing, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Point blank, it's not going to happen.
Great. Just like someone says, I flew on a plane once and it crashed. It doesn't mean you shouldn't fly on a plane.
Right.
I have a question for you because this, I think, came up recently again for me. I had another patient come to me with a years post breast implants, asking a lot about some sort of like post breast implant syndrome. Right. Have you seen this, or do you think this is a real thing or not a real thing? Are certain implants that they used to use, can they cause that, and what are they using now? And
I think BII, breast implant illness, has definitely become more of a hot topic in plastic surgery. We hear more about it. I think the consensus amongst most plastic surgeons is that, to go back, we don't know what we don't know, right? So it's possible that there's an underlying process, an inflammatory process that's happening, and it's causing these symptoms. We just don't have the data. We don't have the evidence to support it and say, oh, we know this is happening. But at the same time, we're compassionate and empathetic towards our patients. We don't dismiss their symptoms. And a lot of us are kind of standard now is we'll offer them a procedure, but we can't promise that their symptoms will go away with the procedure.
So meaning to remove anything.
Usually the standard right now is remove the implant, do what's called an en bloc capsulectomy, which just means you take out the capsule without in its entirety without cutting into it.
Got it.
And you do that, you offer that, and you say, look, we can't promise this is going to make whatever symptoms you're having go away, but
because there's a in orthopedics, there's something with joint replacements called metallosis where there was there was like these weird syndromes where people would get a hip replacement, joint replacement, and then like 10, 20 years later would start to have these vague, weird symptoms. And at least in that field, they've figured out and identified the trace metals in the blood that they can say, okay, it's this that's causing it. And if you have... Now they go back in time and say, if you've had this joint replacement, this may, not necessarily, but could, cause this syndrome in the future.
That was on an episode of House MD also.
Yeah, but the same has not been, there hasn't been a specific identified, whether it's type of implant, type of, whether it's silicone or otherwise, that's causing it. And so that's, I think, part of the reason why we're not sure. Just if anyone's listening and they've read reports of that, why we can't say for sure whether it's a thing or not, or whether it's...
What do you do with the breast after you take out the implant and the capsule? You
have a couple options. Sometimes you can use fat
to
add some volume. Sometimes if a patient needs a lift because the skin may be a little droopy after you lose an implant, then you can just do a lift at the same time.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. Is that why you would prefer smaller implants in general? Do you feel like it changes the breast less?
Like all comers are saying, just small implants in general.
No, just like, do big implants have more of a long term? Like, if you're going to take them out in 5 years, 10 years?
My take on implants is nothing good comes from big implants, and I say that to every patient.
Yeah, good.
So nothing good comes from big implants. Period.
Yeah, I think it's a great. Well, and on that same topic, let's one more really interesting story. So TikTok obviously has become here. Are you on TikTok? Yeah, so TikTok's obviously become
He has an
huge.
amazing social media. You got to see Dr. Rahul's social media.
Oh my God, cool. And what's your social media for people to check it out?
It's Dr. William Rahul. Thanks.
Dr. William Rahal. Wonderful. So TikTok has obviously become huge for our industry, right? Everyone's on TikTok for every business. It's not just plastic surgery, but every business is on TikTok. So now there's a lot of articles stating that because TikTok has a younger audience, there's a little bit of a wrongful promotion is what they're trying to say that's happening, is where plastic surgeons are now promoting to younger patients. So this insider, what she did, she on insider.com, she created a fake account. She pretended to be a 14-year-old girl. And then she went online on TikTok and she just started scrolling and saw how long it took until she saw a plastic surgery ad or a plastic surgery content come up. And it took her 8 minutes.
Right.
After 8 minutes as a 14-year-old girl, plastic surgery content started popping up. And so the argument that they're having on both sides is this wrong, first of all, for us to be promoting on a platform that has younger patients? And then number two, what is wrong about this, but okay for them to be doing bikini sex dances that their peers are doing, which is worse? And, so what are your thoughts on the whole TikTok and youth campaigns?
Yeah, I think, you bring up bigger questions like censorship. And I think most of us are pretty, we're pretty level-headed where we say, look, there could be, if you're underage, we do have an obligation to our society, to our children, to protect them, I think, from certain content. So you have some sort of parental control on these things, right? There should be content, just like movies, right? PG. Remember, and all of us when we were 13, we would want to watch the rated R movies.
Yeah,
we all did, right? We were all into it.
Definitely. That's why you have an older brother.
So, I think a middle line is we're not going to censor and tell people what they're allowed or not allowed to put up, but there should be some parental controls that limit what a young, impressionable kid is allowed to see. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, because I think there's certain things, for example, on TV that you can't advertise anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you can advertise cigarettes anymore on TV, right?
Yeah, correct.
For certain things. So, I agree. I think it's challenging because social media, a lot of kids are actually better at getting onto there than the parent.
Right.
And so it's difficult for parents really to have any control or say in what the kid's doing on there.
I know. They were particularly pointing out nose jobs because there's this thing called the nose job challenge, like nose job check. Right. And so there's like this audio that girls use where it starts out with nose job check and then they're posting before and after photos. And that has gotten flagged because a lot of younger celebrities have been posting that. And so it's gotten a lot of attention. The problem that's awkward is that nose jobs are typically done on 16 and 20-year-olds. That's the biggest audience. So with parental consent, of course. So I feel like this is a non-topic because end of the day, it's not like we're just manipulating these people's minds. It's up to them and their families to make decisions. And then we also only do surgeries on patients who are mentally and morally and emotionally of sound mind and body before we do a procedure. So it's not something that I would be too worried about personally. Great. I think that was the main thing that I wanted to ask you, Dr. Hall. What else? What's your big insights for 2021? What's your goals? What is your practice looking like? What are you trying to do?
2021, I think we're going to do the same thing we do every year. We're going to take care of patients. We're going to provide good service. We're going to play it safe. And we're just going to be there, like I said, for, just slow and steady wins the race, man.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Any personal goals this year?
Jeff, putting me on the spot.
Yeah, we want to know.
I think, so Dr. Rahal and I are equally, I think, and probably the three of us, we're all of us very, driven. We all work too much.
Yeah.
I think we will all admit to ourselves that we work too much. And so,
we're filming a podcast on a Sunday on our day off.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I try to, instill in all my patients, friends, everyone is just to have some type of wellness practice, whether that's exercising, relaxing, taking a nap on a Sunday.
Absolutely.
Whatever you need to de-stress and refocus. Otherwise, it just adds up over time.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that this year is going to be a great year for everyone. I think last year was a terrible year for most people. And I think this year is going to be a much, much, much better year. Yeah, a lot of change coming.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we really appreciate Dr. Hall. And again, where can they find you online?
Dr. William Rahal is the IG handle.
Okay, and can people who are not in LA, because I think, we have listeners in LA, but we have listeners across the country. Can people do consults with you virtually? Do they come here? How do they see you?
Yeah, about 30% are virtual. So I'm sure your practice is similar, right? There's a good percentage that's virtual. So we set up a Zoom link. We talk about everything. We meet in person. That's it. Simple.
Yeah.
We stay in LA for about a week.
And I know that was what I was going to say. I know a lot of people come into town.
Usually for a week.
They see you. They make sure preoperatively everything's safe to go. And then you have them stay somewhere nice to recover for a few days before they head back.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
They stay at your house, I heard, right?
You
let them stay at your house?
Actually, I have him stay with Toll. Yeah.
Dr. Toll's
A great host.
Yeah, he's a great host.
And the dog is like their companion.
Yeah, his villa overlooking the hills of Los Angeles. He has a wing dedicated to aftercare.
Thank you, guys.
There's a private link on Dr. Toll's website when you click
that.
on.
You can Airbnb it. All right, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Well, that was great. Dr. Rahal, really interesting conversation.
Yeah. He's very talented. He's very safe. You know, I do a lot of his preoperative clearance, and if there's any, even on young patients, he says no if anyone has any health issue. He's very safe.
I love that. I love ethical doctors in general because we have we are kind of privileged to know so many good, nice, kind, gentle doctors, but there's a lot of crazy people out there. So we're really lucky to have this network. But great episode. I think he brought a lot of good insight. Well, now it comes to that end of the episode tidbit. Everyone wants a secret, so we're going to talk about
since I'm not a plastic surgeon and I can't just take you somewhere for a couple hours and change how the body looks or feels, I will try to give my best tip on how people can try to lose a little, kickstart some weight loss in the New Year's. I know
wellness tip of the day.
A lot of people around New Year's, they have New Year's resolutions. I'm gonna hang out with my children more or less, probably during the pandemic. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to lose some weight. So I think a big one always is, how do I lose some weight? And as gyms are pretty much closed in here, how do we, without doing anything super crazy, intense, how do we lose some weight? So I'm a proponent in general of things that are more sustainable as opposed to like a crowd. What's your 7-day diet where I'm going to lose weight?
Right.
So I'm a big believer in something called intermittent fasting.
I love it.
And pairing that with actually a little bit of a fasting exercise.
Okay.
And so what intermittent fasting essentially means is we're compressing, we're not necessarily eating less, we're not necessarily changing our diet much, although we can. What I like to do is it's kind of like a triple thing. So I do a kind of like a low carb intermittent fasting exercise. And what that means is we go lowish on the carbs. We don't have to go crazy, but the more you can eliminate, the better. What intermittent fasting means is instead of eating your breakfast early, lunch in the middle of the day, and dinner right before bed, we're compressing all 3 meals within like an 8-hour period. And then at least 16 hours, sometimes even more if you're able to get away with it, you're actually fasting. So what does that do? Well, if you're eating low carb and you're having all 3 meals at the same time or within a few hours of each other, or 2 meals or whatever we're doing, then there's a significant part of the day where we're having no caloric intake, especially no glucose coming in. So what that does is it forces the body to find an alternative source of fuel. So you're not eating carbs, you're not eating anything. Well, what's an alternative source of fuel? Fat. And so the body will start to burn fat just because you haven't given it any other option. It's the only thing left.
Right.
And so if someone pairs that with a walk in the morning or a jog in the morning
while they're fasted,
while they're still fasted, all of a sudden those 200 calories that you've burned are not just the bacon egg sandwich that you just ate right before your workout. You're actually burning fat because that's the only thing left to burn.
Right.
And so with that type of strategy, people can lose, typically you'll lose a few pounds actually in the first week all of a sudden. And then you should see a steady, it's not as dramatic as the first week. The first week you'll lose the most. But then if you can keep it going for weeks or months, you'll lose continuously, a few pounds a week.
Yeah, I think I love this tip because intermittent fasting is the quickest way to drop a few pounds really fast. And once you drop a few pounds, you get really motivated to want to continue the journey.
Right.
With a lot of other traditional diets or workout plans, the problem is sometimes it takes weeks until you see any results, and you can start to get a little disheartened, start to lose momentum. So to get that instant momentum, lose a few pounds, intermittent fasting I think is genius. People do between 16 to 20 hours sometimes. There's an app that's really helpful called Life, Life. You can download in the App Store. And what's cool about it is like a whole community of intermittent fasters. And what you do is you actually set the time that you're starting your fast, and then you set the time when you're going to end your fast. So you can literally just say you're going to start the fast and how long you're going to do it. So sometimes, you're getting hungry and you're just kind of like, oh man, let me just eat something. But if you look at the app and it tells you, hey, you only have 1 more hour to go, 2 more hours to go, sometimes it gives you that additional motivation to just keep going.
Yep.
So I love the intermittent fasting tip that you gave, because that's a really quick way to kickstart.
Some people will feel, as far as side effects or talking to your doctor before this, if you are diabetic or you're on anything that lowers your blood sugar, talk to your doctor first.
Good advice.
This is really meant to be for relatively healthy, no kidney problems.
Yes.
If you have any complicated medical problems whatsoever or on medications, obviously talk to your doctor to make sure it's safe to do this.
Yep.
But if we're talking about sort of young to middle age with very few medical problems, it's a very safe and general diet. If the extreme version is like a ketogenic diet where it's really extreme, and that you have to be even more cognizant of other medical issues. But I find this is good. Some people feel actually a lot more energy. Some people feel pretty crappy actually during the fasting until their body gets used to it. So it's different for different people for sure, but it does work.
Yeah, and I think when you're fasting, the important thing is you can drink water.
Definitely drink water.
They even say you can drink coffee, but with no additives.
Sugar.
So no sugar and no milks.
Yeah.
They're saying not to add almond milk or any milk. So coffee's okay, water's okay.
Again, what we're trying to accomplish is your body having nothing to burn but
exactly,
fat. So
exactly.
Coffee basically has no calories. It's just like caffeine, some other, whatever stuff in the plant and water.
Right. But no chewing gum, nothing with sugars, because that's the entire point. You don't want to defeat that entire purpose.
Exactly.
Great. Well, wellness tip of the day. Fantastic.
I feel well.
Well, continue to like, share, subscribe. If you have a friend or family member you think this would help, please send it to them, because our entire goal is just to spread the wellness message.
And ask some questions. We have some big guests lined up this season.
This season's going to be awesome.
And thanks for listening.